with the topics sport or business, the future of esports. And I would like to invite our guests to the stage. Please welcome Hans Jagno, who is the president of the ESBDD Sportbund Deutschland, Hodojan Daniel, the content director of Esport One HU, and one of the main organizers of the V4 Future Sports Festival, and Martin Fritzen, who I see as an esports evangelist, right? An esports influencer. That was the first slide of your presentation. Okay, thank you for joining me, and let's wrap up this day with some quick questions and answers in the following minutes. How do you see the status of esports compared to traditional sports? Do we need to compare them? Do we need to prove that they are a worthy comparison, or should we start a new discussion and then try pulling away these things from each other?
So I think it's much more differentiated than a black or white answer. Esports is growing so much right now. It's attracting so many people. It's attracting so many investments, as well as offering new ways to participate in this digital sports culture, that we don't necessarily need to be compared to traditional kind of sports all the time, and we shouldn't do that on a regular basis and say like our legitimate claims come from this comparison. Esports and players are mainly, they don't see themselves as sportsmen mainly, but they see themselves as esports people, and they want to be esports athletes in their identity. And I think we have to build that first, and then we can see about how this collaboration between traditional sports and esports benefits both sides. And I think that is a really important thing. It shouldn't be like just a saying like esports is sports, but it should be underlined with real action, with being able to connect to each other. And if we have the athletes coming together as one, coming from traditional sports as well as esports, we have achieved so much.
Martin, your presentation was about traditional sports club fan base and esports fan base, so I'm extremely curious about your opinion about this.
Yeah, but I'm actually agreeing with Hans. So in Denmark, we are not, even though I'm representing a sports organization and I'm talking about esports as a part of sport clubs, I don't say that esport is sports. It can be, but it can also be entertainment. It can be recreational. It can be fun. It can be about business and money and social networks. We see the people, or boys and girls, 8 to 10 to 12 years old, they use Fortnite as a social media, as we just heard. So for me, in our language, we say that esport is its own. It's esports, right? It's a great activity for a sports club, for school, for business, for all types of activities. And I usually do this comparison, like it's like asking back 20 years ago, is email, is that mail? No, it's not mail. It's email. It's something different.
Yes, but it's the same ballpark. So you write and you receive. I see a bit bigger difference between sports and esports.
Definitely. I was trying to do just an example, but I don't necessarily see esport at the Olympics, and I don't need to the traditional sports organization to absorb esport or recognize esport, because esport is gonna build its own framework and identity throughout the years. It's great when sports organizations such as my own accept it and recognize this as a great activity. But we see in Spain or other countries that that's not the case. Esport is something different in other countries, and I applaud that. I like the diversity.
What's your opinion?
I think so both Hans and Martin, sorry, both Hans and Martin told very interesting points here, and I would like to highlight some of these. One of them is that the pace of developing of the esports industry and the history of what traditional sports has is that's a huge difference. So while traditional sports had like hundreds of years to develop, esports has like, I don't know, just imagine where we were in like, I don't know, 2013 or something. It just started climbing, and now we are here in 2019, and we are here in an esports conference. So that's one of the key points. You cannot really make a comparison between the two, but I think the key point here is that you need to follow some of the infrastructural basics of traditional sports, because if you develop too rapidly, it might just go wide or so, and that's why traditional sports is a good basic. There are some good standing points, and this was one of the, I think, key points of one of the early presentations, that the traditional sports is a way that can be followed, and yes, it could be part of the Olympics, but I think it's not necessary, because esports has its own, or it will be an own industry, it will have its own rules, its own ecosystem, but based on the traditional sports.
I'm going to be a bit provocative here, as it's the end of the day and we need some adrenaline. But maybe it's just an interesting question for me. If we can go back time and can decide whether we want to call it esports or just call it gaming or something that's not sport related, would you go the other way? Or would you still go with esports?
Actually, I don't think there was such a decision. This was something coming from the community, and it was not an individual saying, but it was something that stirred up the collective mind of the community, where they said, well, we do compete, we do accelerate over just the leisure part of gaming. We had in our mind to win instead of just relaxing. This is sports, and that's why we call it esports. I think that is the core of the message of the word, and there are structural differences between gaming in its broader view and esports in its specialty. And as we see all over Europe, it's about 10% of the gaming community that actually is involved in esports. So this is a group of core gamers, a group of brilliant young athletes that took their passion for games and brought it in a structure that works a little bit, that works a lot like traditional sports work. If we go back in time and say, like, we try to change the narrative, it's nevertheless still competitive gaming. It's still following rules. It's still being ensured that there is no cheating, that there is no match fixing. It needs all of these parts, and it's regardless if you call it competitive gaming, esports, if you call it I don't know, just juggling video games. The core is about this, that it works as a sport, and that's why I think there shouldn't be like a discussion about the wording, but about the actual content of what we are doing here and how we ensure that it follows rules of integrity and that it develops, that players are going to be protected and all those contents. And we see that in Germany a lot right now, that they want to drive, that they want to split up the community into virtual sports on the one side, which is FIFA or NBA 2K or something like that, and e-gaming, which is a term not used by anyone from the actual gaming community, right? Like, it's gaming. Please don't say e-gaming. This isn't professional at all. So this is very important to see that we don't have to talk about the actual words, but about the actual contents of what it means.
I mean, that's so funny about the e-gaming. I hear that as well, but I think the esport terms is actually great because it brings up a lot of debate, right? So we wouldn't have this talk, and I'm meeting with people from the Danish government and with the sports clubs and with politicians and local governments talking about is this healthy? But I like the idea. If I'm looking at the actual, the players, the actual gamers, who might, as you said, in 2017, they might have been bullied or, pointed fingers at, and they were geeks or nerd or gamers. So now they're esport athletes, right? Now they're something. They can join a club, or they join the university program, or they participate in a tournament who's going to be live streamed. Maybe they even win money, and they have a picture with a check where they actually win money. So I think that from a narrative or just the wording is that it's changing, and that person I was maybe 20 years ago is actually feeling proud now instead of feeling sad about it.
I was not really wondering about the wording, and gaming was just an example, but what you mentioned was important for me because on one hand, you make it harder on yourself because there will be discussions when you have to defend it against real sports. But if you say that debate is good for the movement, it's good for making it more popular, then it's okay on my side as well.
It actually raises the standards and you have to live up to the word sports, right? This is actually a task for ourselves, that we not only see that as not only as entertainment, not only as gaming, but also in the structural field of sports.
And what do you think about? What do you think about how it became the name esports became a self-fulfilling thing? Because when you put it this way, sports, okay, then we have tournaments, we have teams, we have jerseys, we have a lot of stuff. Maybe if it's not called esports, the characteristics and the gimmicks are completely different.
I mean, just think about it, what esports is about. So there are these players who are trying to achieve their highest skill level and show their performance in a ruled environment where there is fair play and there is an equal competition. And that, I think, that is what sport is about, like really training and then showing your skills or performance, no matter if it's physical or it's like a mental. And just think about the different kind of sports. We call chess a sport. We call like racing a sport. Why wouldn't we call esport or any kind of e-games, as you just referred to, an e-sport? So, and this is what I refer to with the following of traditional sports. These are the basics. For example, the anti-doping regulations, to provide a healthy environment where they can compete on a high level and on an equal level.
Actually, I think there's something really important to understand. Esports isn't the only derivative of gaming. Gaming is such a rich, basic level of what you can do with it. And esports, as we are collectively joined here today to speak about it, is just one part of the development of gaming over the last 20 years. There is art festivals using games. If you see on the entertainment side, there are a lot of streamers right now who not only use esports, but they also use like other games to be creative with that, to create communities around themselves. We have a lot of use. We see games being used in schools to teach and educate. There's such a rich culture developing around gaming, and esports is one part of it. And if you ask, what if we have named that 20 years ago in another way, we have like it would be another development, right? Esports is a development of using video games as a sport, and there are much more developments right next to it that stresses other points of cultural development with gaming.
No, yeah, I just had the same comment as you just said, because we are putting a pressure on ourselves. I mean, from a Danish sports organization, so we are working on a daily basis. We are working with how to help the sports clubs become more healthy or ethical, not to drink that many energy drinks and get the right amount of sleep and eat right and be physical active, how to work with the girls to actually make this gender equality happen, how to educate coaches, how to build a strong tournament, not based on prize pools, but based on community, having fun, making friends, you know. So the esport word is putting a pressure on ourselves, as you said, but I believe that's a good thing.
Let's say we are here to talk about the future of esports, and let's skip the easy answers that the future of esports is the same as we see, but it will be bigger, it will be louder, it will be more money, stuff like that. This is something that is for sure, that esports will grow into bigger tournaments, bigger prizes. What is the next step that you see at the moment that will happen sometimes, or you would like to see, but most people can't? So what can be a next big change, what we don't see at the moment, which is about these tournaments and the national leagues and stuff like that? Do you have a magic crystal and have an idea what the next big thing will be?
I don't have a magic crystal. I wish I had. If you have one, please let's speak after this panel. But I can tell you what we want to achieve, and I think this is important. We are at a point in esports where everything you do is actually having an influence on the future of the movement, and that is something you don't get with traditional sports. You don't get with this old structures that are already set. Esports is a field where you can highly be participating in its future development. I think the next big thing will be more and more structure. It will simplify esports into a clear structure of tournaments, into a clear system where you know where to get from your local and amateur bases to the top player, where there's a clear path to pro, and also where fans, not coming from esports but coming from other societal fields, are understanding with one view on like a tournament table, this is how it's going to work. Right now, I don't know what the official CSGO championship is, right? There are so many. There are majors, there are unofficial majors. We have ESL 1 in Germany, which we are very proud of. But I don't know, like 2019, who's the official CSGO champion? Which team, which athletes? This isn't clear to the public. It's even not clear to me as being active in esports. And that is, I think, the future, what we're going to see. It will be much more simpler and therefore much more attractive for general audience to tune in, much more attractive for TV stations to include that in their sports coverage, much more attractive for mainstream media to talk about that.
That points to some kind of esports Olympics, but with not connected to the traditional sport Olympics.
Or a world championship or like regional championships. I wouldn't go with the Olympic question, because I think this holds us back at so many points. We don't need the Olympics to succeed. It's the same with soccer. No one noticed soccer in the Olympics, I think. Please correct me if I'm wrong, but the relevant part of soccer is the World Championships and the regional championships, but not the Olympics, right? I think soccer is part of the Olympics, but no one actually is that much interested in there. And it's the same with esports. Esports is a big community on its own. What would be good for us is if we really reflect on the Olympic values, but not so much on the Olympic structures.
Thank you. I'm happy I'm sitting next to Hans, so I get a few minutes to think about the future. But what I'm seeing, what I'm seeing right now from like a Danish point of view, and talking to a few people here in the audience, we see just like Hans said, more structure happening, right? So we see universities in Asia, Europe, and US and UK. They're building stronger tournaments, but they are also using esports and gaming and as we heard earlier, like the STEM courses and classes. We see platform software people that are developing AI stuff. So schools and universities can actually attract students. And we can build, stronger manpower and work power in the future, because the esport and the gaming industry will help this. And then I can see like more structure around the tournaments. So we're gonna see more quality into whatever tournament in whatever national league. We just saw in the US that the Play versus company who's doing varsity esport tournaments over there, they received more investment. So they're going to put more pressure. So they're going to hire more smart people, and the tournament is going to be even better. It's going to be more fun to watch. So we're going to see more quality. Maybe not so many cowboys, running around doing their thing, but more unity. We also see the European Federation countries talking to each other. I think we're going to see more quality, more structure, and then esport kind of is going to be flowing into industries and jobs and educations, gender and yeah.
Yeah. What can I say anymore? You told us everything. Just one thing here, and this is slightly personal. My wife is working in the VR industry, and I'm slightly into what the virtual reality can do and what is it capable of. And I see that this can be a next big hit for esports as well, especially when we are talking about how to compare it to traditional sports. So I can imagine a world where there are VR esports competition. I know that there are some already, but in the future I can imagine that this will spread as well, because it involves moving, and this might make this kind of sport more acceptable for those decision makers who are still a bit afraid of esports, because this way we can see that those guys they are not just sitting in front of their PCs or consoles and playing all day, but they are doing physical activities. And I think this can be a key point in the future to convince the most important people who can make the big decisions.
So the three things you mentioned: structure, quality, and the breakthrough or the dominance or the getting stronger of VR. As I see, and I'm a layman compared to you, of course, but coming from the underground and getting more money and more investors getting in, esports seems to be doing all the things right, and it's growing and it's getting more serious and getting more viewers and stuff like that. Do you see any threats in the future of esports? What is something that we, everybody, the organizations, the players have to take extra caution of, because if they want to keep building this movement? Do you see any threats?
I think the first threat is that we had, and I think you said it, there are a lot of cowboys out there, people that try to oversell esports with numbers that are not realistic, with trying to lure investors into non-profitable joint ventures and stuff like that. So what we are, what that poses as a threat is that investors will leave quickly after they know that it's not going to be that high. We have to be very realistic about how long the development phases will be, how high the revenue will be, and we have to be realistic about what there is to gain from esport, and that we are still an adolescent sports movement, that we are still coming into age, right? And we are not fully grown. There's a lot of potential, which makes us attractive, but people shouldn't gamble on that, but make their decisions on real time and realistic visions and stuff like that. This is the first thing. The second thing is that we need to strengthen the amateur base of esports, so we don't run into a bubble where we have overinvestment and where we have just the pro part being developed. We have to have a good amateur basis with a lot of societal problems. We heard today about addiction. We know about the gender topics. We know about climate change, which is a big part for esports as well, and big responsibility for esports as well as a future sport. We have to have a good concept for those societal problems, because we will be one of the most influential forces in sports, and with that comes responsibilities.
And I think from the word responsibility is that I think it's working. But from the word responsibility is key for me, because if you have sports clubs and schools and esport teams and organizations throughout the world, I truly believe that it's such of huge importance that the coaches and the instructors and the team leaders there, that they are, we already heard today, but that they are great educated, so they can help the players become better, but also, you know, finish their education and live a great life in balance. So we don't glorify the idea of becoming, you know, a great player or a great streamer or whatever, but actually have adult strong role models who can guide these players. Because when we see Google and Microsoft and all of these great companies going into to streaming and you know, gaming as a cloud or whatever, the gaming part and the 5G network is going to make it so much more accessible. You know, play a game on your device, it's going to be so easy. So I believe in one of the areas is great and strong coaches and role models.
Yeah, esports is Wild West right now, and I think this is still a threat. And also what you included in your presentation, that it is, since this is a highly competitive industry, there are lots of egos in it, and I think this is a key threat, because if we cannot align forces and fight together for esports being accepted in the world, and of course this includes educating the societies, educating the kids, the parents, the teachers, it is gonna set back esports, and we don't want this to be set back, because we started developing rapidly, and I think we need to keep up this pace, but this requires the right mindset.
Thank you, guys. I really hope that this day helped you to realize how great things are with esports, with such great presentations. And with this knowledge, we will all be able to avoid the threats the guys mentioned, and we'll be able to fulfill their visions about structure and about quality. And I would like to thank you for your cooperation in this roundtable. And we would like to move on to the next and last phase of today's program. Thank you, guys. Thanks. So what will happen next? Next will be the last step of today's, I hope you find it as well as great as I did, program, because I would like to call to stage Lukáš Pleskot, Karel Cagan, Rafal Tribus, and Balázs Bíró. They all have something in their hand, and it's a V4 eSport coalition agreement. Szeretnénk lezárni a napot, ezért felhívtuk Lukást, Károlyt, Rafált és Balást. Mindegyiknál van egy dosszié, amiben a V4 eSport koalíciós megállapodás van. Mit tartalmaz ez a koalíciós megállapodás? Ez egy hosszabb dokumentum, igazából a részleteket, a fő pontokat emelném ki belőle. Egy stratégiai együttműködést a 4 ország között abban, hogy a régiós e-sport versenyek és az edukáció terén mostantól még szorosabban fognak együttműködni, és megosztják a tudást, összehangolják a versenyrendszeréket, és végül, de nem utolsó sorban együtt fognak
the competition systems, and they are going to represent the region's e-sport cooperation towards the EU as one.
Between them when they organize regional esport events and when they educate the society about esports. They will cooperate and they will share the knowledge. And also they will try to harmonize their competition systems so they are compatible and can help to grow the region as a whole. And last but not least, they will act together in the European esport integration space and also in the international space. So I hope that this is the beginning of a beautiful friendship, and I thank you for signing these documents. And I would also like to thank you for the whole day, for your listening, for your arriving on time, for your attention. And I hope that we will see most of you tomorrow and on Sunday on the V4 Esports, V4 Future Sports Festival at Hung Expo. Most akkor még magyarul is lezárom az eseményt, tehát nagyon szépen köszönöm az egész napos figyelmeteket, hogy igyekeztetek időben visszaérni, hogy meghallgattátok a nagyszerű prezentációkat, előadásokat és kerekasztal beszélgetéseket, és nagyon bízom abban, hogy minél több arccal fogok találkozni majd holnap és holnap után a Hung Expo F és G pavilonjában a V4 Future Sports Fesztiválon. Köszönjük szépen az egész napos figyelmeteket, és jó pihenést kívánunk a holnapi napig.